Okay, team, we're going to be watching this video from Preach. I'm going to link you guys the video. You should open this on a side window, let it play in the background so that you get some watch time in there as well. And if you're watching this on the VOD, please click, go there, like it, watch it, do all of the usual stuff to make sure that this video gets tons of views, because Preach does fantastic World of Warcraft content. As a matter of fact, I hope that one of these days I can see if he wants to do like a podcast episode or something. I'd love to have a conversation with Preach. I think it'd be a very interesting conversation. Well, let's see. The video is called, Is It Time to Come Home? The Future of World of Warcraft. Yeah, cut the music.
7 years. 7 years is the timeline Blizzard has set for World of Warcraft's future, and appeal to those who were burned in the past to come home. In this video, we'll look at what that entails, along with the interviews from the devs and the extra knowledge I gained off camera. Is it enough to bring players home again? Before that, a word from our sponsor. Now, ballers, we all know how hard it is to figure out how to get your class absolutely crispy, especially if you're a returning player, and U.GG has you covered. For the Race to World First, which starts next week, they have built a tool specifically so you can follow Echo and figure out exactly what spec, talents, gear, everything they were using on a boss by boss basis. So if you're going into that new raid and you're not sure whether you need to twist your talents ever so slightly to be absolutely optimal, you can check what the best in the world is doing. This will be going live from Tuesday, and you'll be able to check immediately to see exactly if you need to change anything about your character to be totally optimal. But that's not all. U.GG gathers all the information from the top players, so you can quickly, at a glance, figure out what is the best for your spec. What talents are people running in Mythic Plus, in raiding, whatever it might be, specific dungeons, and then you can see their stat breakdowns as well, compared to everybody playing the game, what stats you should be going for, what enchants, what gems, all that kind of good stuff is fully available at a glance at U.GG. So thanks to U.GG for sponsoring this video, and I recommend you check it out, especially if you're coming back to try things out. BlizzCon 2023 gave some space to a lot of their flagship games, but it's no secret it was majorly WoW focused. It's no secret that the other Blizzard IPs have been
Like, listen, it was so majorly WoW focused that I couldn't care less about any of the other IP that they showed there. I didn't care about Overwatch. I thought what they showed of Overwatch was pretty lame. Same thing for Diablo 4. StarCraft wasn't there. What else was there? Oh, right. Hearthstone. I don't play Hearthstone. And then there's that mobile game where they butchered World of Warcraft's art style. Yep. Yep.
under heavy fire for the last few months, and with Heroes of the Storm and StarCraft not even a glimmer in their eye, Blizzard needed a big win to get back on track.
This cinematic was pretty good.
Chris Metzen's announcements were not for the current WoW player base. They were targeted at players such as myself and many others who were so burned by BFA and Shadowlands that they uprooted and moved on to greener pastures. A signal was shot into the sky that they were ready to correct those mistakes. Dragonflight has been well received, but it also exposed a great weakness in the World of Warcraft foundations. While they did remove all the mandatory chores that had broken the backs of players for 5 years, it revealed that World of Warcraft contained very little content for players actually wanted to do for fun. It also showed that
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think the game has plenty of content. I think there was plenty of stuff that I still wanted to do when I stopped playing. The thing was, the main thing that I wanted to do was Mythic Plus, and that just stopped being fun because of the people that I was doing it with. So I was like, well, screw this. This is a waste of my time. But the actual game itself, I was enjoying it quite a bit. Like, the world content was fun. The stuff that there was there to do, I enjoyed. I liked the questing experience. I just didn't care for the story all that much. I didn't think it was particularly interesting. But the overall questing experience, the zone flow, I thought it was pretty good. Didn't really have any complaints. Whereas, for instance, with Shadowlands, it was ass. It was terrible. I thought the leveling experience of Shadowlands was absolutely atrocious. It was not fun at all. And I think, did I level 2 I think I leveled 2 characters in Shadowlands. I didn't like either of them. think it was terrible. Dragonflight was a huge improvement when it came to that stuff. So the leveling experience was good. The overall content that was there was decent. I didn't get to do the raid, so I don't know if that was any good. I actually did a bunch of open world PvP and Dragonflight and had a blast because warriors were actually viable in prot spec and open world PvP until they nerfed them into the ground like they always do. But it was really fun. Like I was running around, beating people up. I remember at one point, I was fighting off 3 hordes for like one of those war chest drops that was in there. It was awesome. The problem is that most of the people in the Alliance side, they don't actually turn on war mode. And so a lot of the times I'll just end up like getting completely overwhelmed by the horde who are all playing with war mode on. It's terrible, but like the Alliance and EU, y'all need to step up. Like, let me just say it like it is. Alliance EU, you guys need to step the fuck up and turn war mode on, dude. Like, what the fuck?
Constant stream of temporary content like island expeditions and Torghast, etc., that were never built to survive beyond the expansion had left a gaping hole of content when the game no longer evolved around simply gaining some arbitrary resource to improve power. This was something that we spoke about during our trip to the campus last year.
We're going to keep running this game for years and years and decades to come. Can we really just keep adding new permanent systems every couple of years forever? No. And so I think, that's what led to some of the class pruning philosophy that went into Warlords. It's what led it to kind of pulling back in some areas, but also the idea that we needed to be able to make things that were not permanent, that we could go deeper, focus them on a single expansion, have them be the hallmark of that expansion, but they weren't going to add to the ongoing complexity.
This, along with modernizing the game's approach to how it treats its players, is what The War Within, Midnight, and The Last Titan is here to solve. The greatest shift in Blizzard I saw from BlizzCon was them going back to what they do best. Traditionally, and at their heights, Blizzard was known for looking at what other games had done, taking it, and then making it significantly better.
It's almost like I said this a couple of minutes ago on this very live stream. It's like word for word exactly what I said, dude. Everyone says this because it's true. Because it's true.
It goes all the way back to such simple things like leveling. Until World of Warcraft, leveling was a pure mob grind, the accepted way of doing things in the MMO industry. They took the idea, they broke the mold and introduced the quest system. And it's utilized so many times over in modern day that it's now considered the norm.
Let me tell you guys something. And I will say this until the end of my days, and this is something that I thought about even before the amount of time that I've recently spent with Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 does it the best. Leveling, in my opinion, Guild Wars 2 does it the best. There are no static quests that take you from zone to zone. You have your personal story quests, which means that they don't need to focus on quantity. They can focus on quality, and they deliver you a story experience. And in between those story beats, which happen every 10 levels, so those of you that don't know the way that works, you get a new story quest every 10 levels. So that means, sometimes it's more than one. So like, for instance, at level 6, you might get like 2, 3 quests chained together, 4 quests chained together, whatever. But you get the idea. Every 10 levels, you get like a quest or a chain of quests that you get to do. That is like a bunch of scenarios that you do back to back. And in between those, the game just says, you do whatever the hell you want. You want to go collect vistas? You can go do that. You want to go fill out renown hearts? You can go do that. And the best part about that is that you don't have to be focusing on any specific thing. Just go do whatever you feel like it. And you can do it in multiplayer. And you can do it anywhere on the map. Which means that there's always players roaming the different areas of the map, some for collections, some for doing events. There are events that pop up that give you a bunch of EXP. I think they do it the best. Final Fantasy XIV is also very good because you just get story all the way. There's just a quality story from beginning to end. But like, filler quests, I actually don't like that system all that much.
Many of the standout features of the War Within follow that model. Warbands, including account-wide
Warband
reputation,
is so
shared
good.
banks and resources, etc., are simply commonplace
It's like
in
a
games
giga
today.
feature.
Old ideas such as Pathfinder, alt taxation are antiquated and unfun.
Good.
Delves
Get rid of
sound
them.
very similar to Fractals from Guild Wars 2, a system that has worked extremely well for them because their
I
audience...
think that Fractals is more kind of like Mythic Plus. Because you need players to do Fractals, right? I don't think you can solo Fractals. But then again, Preach has played more Guild Wars 2 than I have, so he would know better. But I don't know.
needed something different than dungeons to fit their
solo
playstyle.
them? Oh, okay.
I admit, while watching the deep dive, not knowing that Blizzard was clearly pointing their camera right at me for reactions, that as Ian announced all these changes, I was of course happy and also angry. As me and Ian had fought for years to get these changes into the game, and that stubbornness always pushed back.
Oh yeah, like you for those of you that don't know the lore, there's like this interview of Preach with Ian wherein a lot of people in Warcraft, they were not happy because Preach basically grilled Ian about specific features, and the higher ups, they were just like, "Oh, we're not happy about this. This Preach is a bad actor." I think they even blacklisted him for a little bit.
So it made sense for me to ask him how they arrived at this.
Over the years, me and you have logged heads a few times about a few things, and then today you 180'd nearly everything we thought about over the last few years. What's going on? And like, this is a dramatic shift, going to like account focus, the whole thing.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, it's what I laid out on the panel today. It's a mix of, we said with the technology, but we made the technology get there. It really is letting go of old stubbornness.
Yeah.
You know, something we've been talking about, I think, since midway through Shadowlands, certainly not before Shadowlands, but midway through onwards. A mix of seeing reception to Shadowlands, a mix of also seeing how the modern player base played Classic over the course of like 2019, 2020, that made us kind of just rethink all these assumptions about how WoW should be and what was integral to WoW versus what needed to evolve, what needed to adapt to the way players were looking to game in the modern age. And so I think, you know, for a long time,
It's like the biggest problem when it comes to these Blizzard interviews is that I always feel like I hear the exact same thing. Doesn't it feel like that? Like you hear these interviews and Ian is always saying, well, we just, we listened to the players and we made the game better. Like if you really boil down a lot of the stuff that Ian says, it's always that. We listened to players, we made it better. We listened to players, we made it better. Why is this time different? Because I feel like this is, I guess just the features themselves it does finally seem like they're doing something that we want, but it just kind of sucks that we keep hearing the same old, same old.
a lot of these character investment philosophies were the byproducts, were handed down from my forebears, from the people who trained me, from
you
the
said this
original
last time,
leads.
like
Exactly.
You came into a lot of rules that were established.
Yeah. And it was like, your job as game director, Ian, is to safeguard this tradition, do it well. And so taking a step back and being like, well, no, what if the tradition's wrong now? What if the tradition was right 20 years ago but needs to change today? That can be a hard conclusion to come to, but we're certainly there now.
What was the first domino to fall? I'm really curious, because today a lot fell. It was like, okay, we're getting rid of not only the account, we're going more account focused instead of the character focused, but we're also dropping like taxing you on moving resources around. Like all these very established things are happening, and it felt like one thing fell, and it's like, let's look at everything here. This no longer makes sense. This no longer makes sense. And it doesn't fit together. So was it a case of that?
Yeah, I think it was. Ultimately, it was asking the question of, are these principles actually making our players happier? Are they? Who are they serving? Or if we are honoring some vision, some set of values that we hold dear as developers, but it's alienating our players, who is that good for?
Yeah.
So it's not us, and it's certainly not them. And so I think looking at the data, hearing the feedback from not just our community, but also ourselves, members of the team who all play alts as well, that, the focus really, I think quality time is something that is a through line through all of this. We're trying to respect players' time, but doing that is not just, about what we do in an individual character. It's about making sure that as much of the time that you choose to spend in our world feels like high value to you, and not busy work, not wasting the time, so that you can get to the stuff that you enjoy in the hours that you have left. And so it's that, the product of that set of realizations, I think probably started us seriously down this path 2.5 years ago. But then we ran into, as I mentioned, a bunch of technical challenges where it's like, okay, you could see the piecemeal movement in these directions of more things, unlocking on vendors and being mailable to alts and so forth.
2.5 years ago, was that like 9.1.5? Oh, 9.5. Yep. No, 2.5 years was before. So that would have been when they were developing 9.1.5. Makes sense. It released in the 2nd of November, 2021. So it was exactly 2 years ago when 9.1.5 came around. This was like one of the better patches for, at least I think it was, one of the better patches for Shadowlands.
But the actual solution required, expansion level work to deliver.
Blizzard's stubbornness has been a regular topic on my channel for years. And
this was the podcast where he really laid into Ian, and Blizzard didn't like that.
It's a fine moment to see them look at what's happening in the modern sphere and realize that they are not the young kid on the block anymore.
Dude, by the way, like, congratulations to Preach. He looks way healthier now than he did back then. Right? Like, he's lost a lot of weight. Really good job, Preach. Fantastic, dude.
Changing the rules and being the boisterous ones, but instead becoming the old man, being stuck in a rut while everyone else has moved on. A word that was thrown around a lot during the What's Next panel with Morgan Day was evergreen. Going back to the mention of temporary content like Warfronts, class halls, etc., is now a move to create content that is everlasting and should fill out those gaping holes that chore removal has left behind. Combined with the shift of allowing solo players to obtain full end boss heroic loot is a welcome change. The salty player who believes they earned their gear more because they did X instead of Y content is not only never going to change, but it should be ignored.
Exactly! Ignore them bitches. Who the fuck cares? Nobody cares. Those types of players that go like, I did heroic for my loot. What have you done? Who gives a fuck what they think? Dude, fuck them. Dude, even when I was like doing high-end rating and all of that shit, listen, I was the guy that was doing Black Temple on tier 4 gear because people kept using our guild as a stepping stone. Okay? Tier 4 gear without pants because they nerfed warrior rage generation and aggro management was getting hard, so I took my pants off. My healers did not appreciate that at all. But guess what? I stopped having aggro problems. There were no more aggro problems once I took my pants off. I've sacrificed everything. What have you given? Yeah, it's about the same energy as the Illidari. Those like, who gives a fuck, dude? Nobody cares.
Player has doesn't affect you in any way, and it's not the best items in the game regardless. Just another path for a player to go on and have fun with. I mentioned that delves sound like Guild Wars 2 fractals, but until we see them, we can't possibly know for sure. For now, and with a lot of these features, we wait and see on their function. But it does bring up a concern many players had about the 3 expansion announcement, which is that the fear is that it's a cash grab. Most features will be in the War Within, and Midnight and the Last Titan will just bring more zones and stories rather than the usual expansion systems that we see.
I've seen questions raised on the internet and elsewhere. Like,
yeah, the skeptics are out in force at the moment. Yeah.
Oh, is this like shrinkflation? Like
yes.
How you get fewer chips in your bag of chips?
Yeah, you're just trying to push it out to sell an expansion 6 months quicker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, these are expansions, right?
Exactly.
War Within has 4 zones and 8 dungeons and a raid and new levels, and we're not going to talk much in detail, but Midnight, I can say, we'll have 4 zones and dungeons and a raid. Like, these are expansions as you've come to know them. And we're just going to, not have gaps And we're going to be ambitious and purposeful as we unfold the story.
Ian goes on to say that
it's important to mention that before this, before Dragonflight came out, Blizzard actually acquired Proletariat, who are the guys behind like some spell-based spell-based battle royale, which is a team of like over 100 people that they've acquired. And most of those people went to work on the Warcraft team. So they have more people to create content, which is one of the reasons why they might be able to be more aggressive with the release schedule of expansions.
1.5-year goal for expansion release is more due to the growing development team. Certainly after their acquisition of Proletariat and having some of the team work on the next expansion, while the other team continues to push current content and content release, will be similar to what we have seen in Dragonflight, which overall has been faster than ever. Following the opening ceremony, I tweeted that they might not have called it WoW 2, but that's the vibe I was getting. Many didn't understand how I thought that, so let's dive into that a bit. The World Soul Saga...
Before we do, though, one of the biggest hesitations that I have about the World Soul Saga is that they still don't have a good on-ramp for new players. So, like, it's easy for returning players to come back because we kind of already know what happened with the game. But a new player, they're going to jump in Dragonflight. And while Dragonflight is a fine expansion, the story is not amazing. And from what I've been hearing from the people that are currently playing the game, they don't seem all that happy about the latest bout of cinematics. They're calling them boring. I haven't really seen those cinematics yet because I also don't know a whole lot about the dragons lore and all of that stuff, right? I kind of feel like Blizzard needs an expansion. Not even an expansion. They need a starting player experience that's kind of like the best of World of Warcraft, where they would give you like key moments in World of Warcraft, like say they would have you go through Dead Mines as part of your vanilla experience. They would have you visit Blackrock Depths. They would have you visit Molten Core as like a single player scenario so that you would get to experience a little bit of what the story of World of Warcraft is. You'd get to go to Outland. You'd get to go to Black Temple. You'd get to see some of those things, and you would have like this best of compilation to kind of like on-ramp players into the events of Dragonflight. That's what World of Warcraft is missing right now. The problem is there's no money in developing this, right? There's no money in developing this. You need an on-ramp for those new players. Living World Seasons in Guild Wars 2, this is 19 years too late for that. It's like, look, it's easy to call out every flaw that I'm saying and saying, oh, Guild Wars 2 did this better. World of Warcraft came out in 2004. Guild Wars 2 came out in 2012. They had 8 years to learn from all the mistakes that World of Warcraft did. Makes perfect sense that Guild Wars improved on a lot of things. Yes, same thing for Final Fantasy XIV. Came out in 2013. No, it actually came out in 2010, but they fucked that up and destroyed that because 1.0 was not particularly good. And then they re-released it in like 2013, 2014. And again, they had plenty of time to study what World of Warcraft did and improve on it. So, these games came out after World of Warcraft. So, they've done some things better. Now, what I'm saying is that the problem with what I'm suggesting that World of Warcraft does, there's no direct money, but there's such... It just improves the new player experience by so much. And you can even allow like veterans to replay this thing, right? And then by the time that you're done, so instead of you having like, what's it called? The island that they have now, Exile's Reach, wherever the fuck. I don't even know what happens on that island. I don't think I've ever done that scenario. But instead of having that, you would have this best of compilation that takes players through these different scenarios of stuff that has happened so that they become familiar with the world. They learn about who the Lich King is. They learn about Ragnaros. They learn about the Defias Brotherhood. They learn about all of these things in this on-ramp. And then when they get the Dragonflight, they're all caught up and they're good to go. And they get this lore of the dragons. And then boom, World Soul Saga. Boom, done.
Saga is Blizzard's signal that they are changing a lot of how the game is presented. This is going to be far more story-focused than ever before. After experiencing the smiles and tears that FF14's story has given me, and shown millions of gamers just how good an MMO story can be, this is obviously a welcome change, and probably, in my opinion, the
Said it many times. Say it again. Final Fantasy XIV, best story I've ever experienced in any form of media ever. For me. I know it's probably not the same for everyone, but for me, best story I've ever experienced in any form of media.
biggest challenge Blizzard has ever given itself. Storytelling in WoW, in my opinion, has always been its weakest point.
Yep.
Characters coming and going seemingly at random.
Bro! They did my man Bloodhoof so fucking dirty, dude. So dirty. Look at him. Look at how dirty they did this poor man. Look at him. They threw his ass off a cliff and then set him down like a cripple for a whole expansion. My man Bloodhoof, dude, come on. How you gonna do him so dirty?
Powerful characters like Khadgar just not being involved when clearly we would turn to them for help. A giant sword sticking into the planet, yet no one ever mentions it.
What sword?
And some of their most compelling storytelling is hidden in
sword?
books and novels you have to buy outside of the game.
That's another thing, man. Fuck that shit. Books and novels should be side stories. They should never, and let me emphasize this. They should never, ever be required reading for fully understanding the plot. Okay? I don't give a fuck. You're making a video game. I don't care about your books. Okay? I don't care. It's just that simple. I'm playing your video game. Tell me the story in the video game.
This in turn leads to players not really caring about the actual story, but more giving a star rating to the cutscenes when they're released.
Yep.
Shooting a laser at N'Zoth is met with sighs and laughs
Yo.
rather than a resounding cheer. Blizzard has a lot to do in order to stick the landing here. I dived into 10.2 to see how their storytelling was being done in its latest iteration.
That was a
The
mistake.
much more frequent in-game cutscene use was a welcome change. Always skippable for those uninterested, but a skip current dialogue button would be welcome for people who read faster than the voice actors. On that note, the quantity of voice actors is massively increased, and they're of a very, very high quality. Where the game still suffers, though, is pacing. Having a major villain from the launch of the game, Viranoth, change her mind, swap teams, and be besties with the new team within 3 minutes of storytelling is nothing short of poor. It's not going to allow people to care about these moments when they're so mindlessly rushed through it, and including much needed depth and backstory to the characters in the latest novel isn't going to fill that gap for the majority
plot.
of players who just won't see it. Similarly, having important main story elements stuck behind renowned quests is no good, especially for those who play WoW seasonally, which is the current content model of WoW. The player having to sit and watch several cutscenes while lacking that precursor context is not good enough to get the player up to speed and invested. Side content should expand some characters, add more fullness to their story, but not be integral parts of the main story overall. When I was talking to Ian about this, he made it very clear that the story team is both excited and nervous about this new challenge.
From what we've seen in the past where expansions have been all self-contained, one and done sort of scenarios, how has it been internally with like seemingly now a 7-year-ish plan that has a very clear and distinct actually beginning, middle and end with War Within and then Nightmare and then Last Titan? Has that been really comfortable to work with? Like, okay, we have a beginning and we have an end, and it's not a case of sitting around a table every year and going, okay, are we going to the Dragon Isles next time? Or are we going to space? What are we doing?
It's partly comfortable, partly terrifying, right? I mean, certainly pulling back the like, because we're making a commitment.
Yes,
we are. And there's aspects of this that now we can't change. We're going to have to work around. If we realize there are some challenges with the ideas we have, if we get feedback, if we get new ideas along the way, we're going to have to fit that to the structure that we've laid out. the same time, yes, certainly, knowing for sure this is where we're going, this is where we're going to be, aids us in both planning for the future, but I think building richer worlds and stories today, because we can foreshadow, we can plant the little seeds for things that we know will make sense, as opposed to at times in the past, frankly, doing what seemed cool at the moment, and then, okay, asking ourselves, well, what do we do next?
It's
and then
a novel versus
piece
YouTube shots is what it feels like. It's like, this is a really cool cutscene. But then, we talked about the world not reflecting it and where's it going. But now, well, it will reflect because we're already building the next world.
My personal feeling on this is I'm more than willing to come home. I've been playing Dragonflight every season, but I'm still lacking that sense of satisfaction. As soon as the game devolves into M+ grind or Mythic Raid grinding for char improvements, I've turned away rather than be fully invested. And honestly, all too often, that has come far too quickly. The 7-year plan, though, it has me intrigued. On paper, everything seems to be good and is moving in the right direction. Their focus on players being happy with hero talent names rather than the functionality is a really good move, and it's probably what Covenant should have been. The problem is they really need to stick the landing. If the storytelling is poor or rushed, paced wrong, then it won't make a difference if we're doing this over 3 expansions or 1 expansion in a different setting that we're used to. It'll just be the same thing. The 3-day early access for $90 is an obvious business move.
It's bullshit. It is absolute, fundamental bullshit. Okay? Let's just make that perfectly clear. And plenty of games have done that this year, by the way. It is also something that I've spoke out against plenty of times, and people told me to shut the fuck up. Here's the result. Now you get it in every single game, whether you like it or not. Enjoy. That's what I have to say now. With the amount of people that told me to shut the fuck up every time that I complained about this, hope you enjoy it. Because look, I only have to gain from it. Okay? Because I'll just buy whatever version has the 3 days early access as a work expense, and I'll play the game early, and there'll be more people watching because not everybody's going to have that money. Like from a business standpoint, it's great for me. Hey, it is what it is. I complained about this nonstop. People told me to shut the fuck up. You get what you deserve.
And one that I severely dislike. While Ian tried to justify it, I hate it. This is clearly a predatory business model that preys on people having to watch their favorite streamer or their friends playing 3 days early and feel the need to pay twice as much for the game than if they didn't 3 days early, despite the fact that it shouldn't provide any actual tangible benefit. It's something that's a black...
It does. Let's just make this perfectly clear. It 100% does. It always does. When an MMORPG releases 3 days early, there is benefit, whether that is because you have more earlier access to crafting. Look, on the first couple of days of an expansion being out, raw materials like the mining materials, flowers, leather working stuff, all of those are worth about 500% more than they will be in the following week. This is just the way that it is. Some people can trick themselves into believing it's not. It is 100% like that. Okay? It's just that simple. Not to mention you get ahead of everybody else grinding for materials, grinding for PvP gear, grinding for everyone, for everything, whether that is for PvE or PvP. Basically, you get ahead in every single conceivable way that you possibly can, because 3 days early access. Who are we kidding here? Of course it's an advantage. Come on. Be real. Let's just call a spade a spade. I also think that companies giving games to content creators is bad. Like, say a game has a release date.
If only I could be so grossly incandescent.
When we can see our favorite content creators playing early. Hector of Troy, thank you very much for being roasting incandescent for 67 months. Tip of the hat. Appreciate the support. And yes, I agree. As a matter of fact, I've said it multiple times. I wish that nobody had early access. And this is not just content creators, because when you say content creators, I say everyone. Nobody should get early access to any game. Nobody. That's my opinion, by the way. You'll see me cover games early if I have that opportunity, because guess what? Somebody else is going to have it, okay? I don't make the rules. If I made the rules, nobody could get early access. And that means not content creators, not mainstream publications, nobody. You get the game at the same time as everybody else. If you want to pull like 3 all-nighters in a row to review a game, that's your fucking prerogative. You're a grown-ass adult. Do whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. That's the way that I look at that. Nobody should have early access to any video game. You get the game at exactly the same time as everybody else. None of the people are going to say, but Rurikhan, what about reviews? Don't buy games on release. Wait for the reviews. It is what it is. It is what it is. That's the way that I look at it. Because, like, there's always this hierarchy that people try to make of it. It's like, well, mainstream media should get it because they make the reviews. Or this person should get it because he make. It's like, no. Let's just have one rule. Nobody gets it early. Boom, done. Super simple. Everybody can follow it. It's easy. Done. It'd be so much better. See, that's the way that I look at it. I'm even more aggressive when it comes. I think nobody should get early access. But if I have the opportunity, you better believe that I'm going to use it because everybody else gets it. People that are way bigger than me, they get early access. I'm like, hey, I fight with what I got. It is what it is. But if it was up to me, yeah, nobody would get early access. You get the game, day of release, alongside everybody else. That means that literally anyone can make a review of the game, which is actually a good thing in my opinion. Because just because somebody is a content creator, I don't believe that automatically this person is more qualified to review a game than anybody else that is in this chat. Anybody that is in this chat is as qualified as I am to review a video game. You play the video game, you make a video or you make a written piece, and you're just as qualified as I am to make a review on the game.
Stain over the game right now, and everything that's good about what we're hearing is going to be covered by this. I understand that this is now an industry standard, such as microtransactions and all the things we fought against for years, and it's probably here to stay. I just wish it wasn't there. I'm really excited about the future of WoW. Everything I saw at BlizzCon was amazing. All the people I talked to were so excited and so happy about what's coming home. And maybe it's time to come home. Honestly, I would like to come home.
It would be good. I would like to come home too. So long as home is not filled with an abusive ex that is going to beat the shit out of me the second I get home and take all my money, you know? We'll see if that's the case or not. I will be checking out Season of Discovery. I will be checking out War Within. But like I said, the thing that mainly motivates me for War Within is the Earthen and Brand Bronzebeard. Those are the two things that I'm most... Oh yeah, and Delves. Earthen, Brand Bronzebeard, and Delves. Those are like the 3 big things that I want to check out. If those things work out, I'll stick around for a little bit. If those things fall flat, I'll be like, well, it is what it is. I'm out. But I'm interested. We'll see how that pans out. Guys, do remember, do go check out the video, leave likes, all of that stuff. If you're watching this on the VOD later, there will be links in the description. But yeah, it's a good video. It's kind of a little bit hopeful, right? Makes you want to say, oh man, I want to come back home, you know? I do. I really do. I want to come back home. Will I be able to? Who the hell knows? Who the hell knows?